In this session, we're going to still be dealing with formulas and solving them. However, in this one, we're going to be using the additional strategy that is oftentimes required. And that is, if you're trying to solve an equation or rewrite a formula in terms of a particular variable, oftentimes it's necessary to factor that variable out from the multiple terms that it's included in. So the question here is to rewrite this formula, this equation, in terms of x. We want x all by itself. Well, right now x is on the left-hand side of the equation. It's in both of these terms. What we can then go ahead and do is simply factor it out. So let's go ahead and take the x out. That's going to leave us 2a here. X times 2a is 2ax. And then we're going to be left with the 6b here. X times minus 6b is the minus 6bx. And of course, we're still left with our 7 on the right-hand side. Now, to get the x by itself, we need to divide both sides by 2a minus 6b. What that'll leave us then on the left-hand side is x, and on the right, we'll have 7 over 2a minus 6b. So all we did a little bit differently here is we started off by factoring out the x. Sometimes you can't start off by factoring out the x, but as you get closer to your solution, you need to factor it out. And that's what we're going to see in our next example here. Here we have 3a plus 2x over 2b minus 3x equals 2a over 3b. We can see that we have an x both in the numerator and denominator, and the term is being added to or subtracted from another polynomial or another monomial term. So we cannot really do much with it yet other than by starting off by cross multiplying. Remember, we have a proportion here. So our means, the product of our means is going to equal the product of our extremes. So let's start with this one. We're going to have 3b times 3a plus 2x. That's going to be here on the left side. On the right-hand side, we're going to have this multiplication going on. 2a times 2b minus 3x. Now at this point we need to go ahead and distribute it through. 3b times 3a is 9ab. 9 times a times b. Or 9 times b times a. It doesn't matter because of our commutative property. Next is 3b times 2x. That's going to be 6bx. Then over on the right-hand side, we have 2a times 2b, which is going to be 4ab. And then we're going to have 2a times a minus 3x, which is a minus 6ax. We still need to get the x's on the same side of the equation. Well, we also have an additional term here that is an AB. We have a 4AB here and a 9AB over here. Well, let's go ahead and get this 4AB to the other side. We're going to subtract 4AB from both sides. So if I subtract 4AB from the right side, I also need to subtract it from the left side. And what I'm then left with on the left-hand side is 5ab plus the 6bx. And then on the right-hand side, that's a pretty squashed b there. Let's rewrite that. On the right-hand side, our 4ab and minus 4ab will cancel, and we're left with minus 6ax. We need to get rid of this from the left side and over to the right. So to do that, we need to subtract the 6bx from both sides. And when we do that on the left-hand side, those cancel. So we're left with 5ab on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, we're left with minus 6ax minus 6bx. Now at this stage, We've gotten rid of our fractions. We're no longer dealing with fractions. And we also have the x all by itself, or I shouldn't say all by itself. The x is isolated on one side of the equation. It's still included in some other terms. But as we can see here, both the 6 minus 6ax and the minus 6bx both have a factor now of x in it. X is included in both. So we can go ahead now and factor it out. But if we also look here, our minus 6 is also can be factored out. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this at the top. We have 5ab equals minus 6 times x. We're factoring out both a minus 6 and an x, and that's going to leave us with an a and a b. Because minus 6x times a is minus 6ax. That takes care of that term. Minus 6x times b is going to be minus 6bx. That takes care of that term. At this point now, we need to divide both sides by a plus b. Well, on the right-hand side, that's just going to leave us with a minus 6x. On the left-hand side, that's going to give us 5ab over a plus b. Lastly, to get the x by itself, we need to divide both sides by 6. Or I should say both sides by negative 6. So we divide the right-hand side by 6, negative 6. That's just going to leave us with an x. And then the left-hand side is going to be 5ab over minus 6 times a plus b. So what we've finally done here is we have rewritten this formula in terms of x by getting x all by itself on one side of the equation. And in this particular algebraic strategy, at one point here, we had to factor out the x from our common terms to be able to get to our final form here. And that's just what we just stated here as a review. To solve a question in terms of one of its variables, it's oftentimes necessary to factor that variable out of the terms that it's included in. That'll finish up session 105.